But I thought, until the time what? Until when? What time? And the thought occurred to me, what if the time that he's talking about is embedded, the meaning of it is embedded in the spelling of those words themselves? Until the time. Until what time? If you know what that means, it'll tell you what time it is. It's like, what kind of a crazy thought is that?
But that makes sense because Babylon changed all of the language. And from Babylon on, we haven't had access to that. So by very existence, it was in them. Well,
let me ask you another thing. The modern script is called Chaldean flame letters. Have you heard that term?
Yeah.
Who are the Chaldeans? The Babylonians, but specifically the Chaldeans were referred to as the astrologers, the magi, the magicians, the sorcerers, the wise men. The magi that showed up and brought the gold, frankincense, and myrrh to Yeshua when he was born is actually those guys. The magi were the Chaldeans from the neighboring Parthian nation, and some people say they were the offspring or the descendants. Daniel may have been a eunuch, but at least his intellectual descendants. And Daniel said, I've calculated when the Messiah is going to show up. And Daniel, remember, owned essentially a third of the kingdom. He was put as the head of all the viziers and satraps because he had the wisdom and the brilliance in this man. All the kings liked him, gave him all this wealth. He soared up and said, give this to the Messiah when he's born. And so these magi came with, according to Stephen Collins, maybe 20,000 armed soldiers come riding into town. It wasn't 3 wise men on camels where they could have been hijacked by bandits on the way. 20,000 armed soldiers, and that's why Herod was going, I don't know what's going on, because they said, well, the empire of Parthia, all their kings, all their emperors were of the Davidic lineage. Well, that's not even Israel. That's the neighboring Parthians, what's now Iran, and their kingdom went all the way over to like Pakistan and Afghanistan, and it's like, the Davidic lineage was their emperors? So Herod, and they had actually whooped Roman legions quite a few times, and this was a major military, and it's like, boy, this is nothing but trouble. The point is, why would the Chaldeans, the sorcerers, the magicians, all these things are an abomination to Yahweh. Why would the Holy Writ, the Kadosh tongue, even today be called Chaldean flame letters? Isn't there kind of a disparity between calling the Kadosh words of the Almighty who's pure and says, do not have anything to do with sorcery and witchcraft and magic, and yet his own language is called Chaldean flame letters? Doesn't that make you think there's a problem somewhere? Why do you suppose they're called Chaldean flame letters? Any guesses? What was Daniel's job?
Teach.
Huh?
Teach the Chaldeans.
What was his title?
Oh, I can't remember right offhand.
Chief Chaldean.
Yeah.
Chief Chaldean.
That's right. But in Hebrew, the dirt word, but yeah.
Yeah, but the point is, if Paleo was the style of writing that the Almighty used when he wrote on tables of stone, that was with Moshe. That was about 1500 BC. The oldest relics that anybody can find seem to be from about 1000 BC. David and Solomon's kingdom was 900 to 1000 BC. We find relics back then. All the relics are Paleo until about 500 BC. Daniel lived about 500 BC. Ezra was a contemporary of Daniel. Ezra was 500 BC. Ezra comes out of Babylon, where Daniel was, and brings the modern Chaldean flame letters back to Jerusalem, and all the Torah scrolls ever since have been written in modern Chaldean flame letters. Now, what did Daniel do to hide the words and seal the book? I think that perhaps he changed the letters from the Paleo into the modern. Well, who would have the authority or the audacity to do such a thing? Who would presume to take the very writing of the Almighty with his own finger and then alter the font to something else? He was told to by the angel. Now, what the linguistics who study modern Hebrew say, including Isaac Moses, and we'll deal with him, they say he, the Almighty, wrote with Chaldean flame letters, and it was kept secret, and it got lost, and so everybody else wrote in Paleo until Ezra goes to Babylon and finds it, maybe in the archives in the museum in Babylon, and then he brings that back. If that's true, if the Almighty wrote in Chaldean flame letters on tables of stone, who would have changed it to be the paleo? The king's job, that mean Moshe wrote, copied exactly what Yahweh said to write, right? And then he said the king's first order of business was to write himself a Torah scroll. Is he going to change the letters? I don't think so. I think he would copy them. Solomon sat there and said he studied letters and he put beautiful words together, and an apple of gold on a platter of silver as a word fitly placed. And Solomon wrote poetry, and David wrote all this stuff. You think they're going to change the letters? I wouldn't think those. They'd be being true to what Yahweh wrote. Well, then who'd change it? Daniel. What did he do to change it? If he did. Now we're going to run with this hypothesis. These two words, het tav mem and somet tav mem. Now this red dictionary, is anybody familiar, or is everybody not familiar with this dictionary? Not familiar. Sure. It didn't show up very well, but for what it's worth, can you see it? Okay. Just a plug for the dictionary. It was written by Ernest Klein. There's a bio on the back, one page. There's about a 3-page enlargement of the same bio on the inside. He went through Dachau and Auschwitz. He was a Jewish guy during World War II. He spent 20, 30 years writing a comprehensive etymological dictionary of the English language. He was a rabbi in Poland and also in Canada. He spent the last 10 years of his life writing this book. He spent his whole life studying language. Etymological means it tells you the roots of the words, where they came from. So in here he will tell you where these Hebrew words are related to Akkadian, Aramaic, Greek, Latin, English, Sumeritic, all these different ancient languages. Not every word, but a lot of them. They'll show you, well, there's this relationship to these other languages. A guy named Rabbi Hirsch has an etymological dictionary, but he says the Hebrew language is self-contained. You don't need to regard any other language to interpret Hebrew. It's its own thing. And he says, if you even look at those other languages, you've just polluted it. So he would be in contradiction to this. I've looked at a number of different dictionaries trying to find a good Hebrew dictionary. This is the best one I've ever seen, and I think it's so fantastic, it would probably be worth a couple $1,000. I mean, I've really tried to find some.
What's it called again?
Yeah. Comprehensive Etymological Dictionary of the Hebrew Language for Readers of English. It's published by Carta, Jerusalem. Now, for what it's worth, 2 different years in a row, friends gave me a ticket to go to Israel. There's no way I could have done it on my own. But the last time we went in 2010, I went to go see the publisher of this book because we couldn't find it. They were selling for a couple $100 on eBay. And it says, hey, we sold out. We're making a new run. And so they sell them for $92. A friend of mine bought like 100 of them, and they have them at the Hebrew Nation Radio out of Salem, Oregon, if anybody wants them. I brought about 5 with me, and other people have bought them, so I don't have any more that are spoken for. But the radio station charges like $20 to send them. You can also go to Eisenbrauns, E-I-S-E-N-B-R-A-U-N-S. Eisenbrauns is the American distributor of this book, or you can call and contact Carta if you want to. The point is, I'm not trying to make money off of anything. I'm just trying to tell you these are the resources if you want to study the language. I've developed a way to use this. My dictionary is just about ripped up. It's all tattered. I've spent hundreds and hundreds of hours in it. What I do, if there's a word, I can tell you what, here I'm going to show you the style of my study with one word to start with. Here.
I said there's a eraser inside that back.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a certain word that means to be excommunicated. Now, a few of us in the Messianic movement have been excommunicated from other fellowships. I actually one time got excommunicated from a Torah fellowship, and I don't know why. It was never even told me. It was just like, you're out of here, and you know. I thank Yahweh for it. Because when I got kicked, I went to this Torah fellowship for 3 years, and it's like, when's the next festival? Oh, okay. What are we going to do? Oh, okay. What are we going to read today? Oh, okay. And when I got kicked out, it's like being dead in the water. It's like, nothing's going to happen unless you do it on your own. You got to study the festival. You got to figure out what's going on. You got to figure out how to read these words. You got to find some people to get together to read the parashah. And it's like, wow, what a motivation. But so one day I stumbled across this word excommunicated, and it bet, aleph, sheen, mem, tav, ba'ashamat, to be excommunicated. Mem Tav is the word dead. Shin Mem is the word name. Aleph Shin is the word fire. And Bet Aleph means to arrive. The letter Bet itself as a prefix means in. In fire, name, dead. You're out of here. Excommunicate. The way that I've been studying the Hebrew language is literally to know what each letter means. And there's this chart. Has anybody else ever seen the chart? No one has ever seen the chart. Can you hold it for a second? I worked on this chart for a few years. And this chart, I'm explaining it from all my studies what every letter means.
Bring it up front.
Now, I put this on a PDF file, and there's a Dropbox of this printer in Oregon City, which you guys can have it. To print this chart cost me 50 to 100 bucks. The radio station in Salem got 1,000 of them printed, so they're selling them for 20 because they got them made cheaper. If you want one, if you want this one, you can get it for 20 bucks at the radio station. The one that I have on the PDF file has another thing down here, which I can show you, which is the original key to the code, like the Rosetta Stone thing that I made, that this is an explanation of. And I wish I would have put it there, but I left that blank in case everybody wanted to write notes, and it's like I shouldn't have done that. The point is, if you read from the top, this is English, that's Greek, this is the Dead Sea Scroll, Leviticus font, and Paleo. This is my font of letters that I developed. And if you want to know what an aleph means, it's all this stuff in this white column. A bet is all this stuff in the blue column. A gimel is all this stuff. So anybody says, well, aleph is an ox, bet is a house, gimel is a camel, bel is a door. Well, that's one thing here. I did a 4-hour tape, a CD. Show you one other thing. I did this 4-hour DVD trying to explain what I did in this chart that the radio station has. It's pretty inadequate because it would take me 10 or 12 or 20 hours to explain, maybe even 40 hours to explain what's on this chart because I spent years on this, packing it full of all these little nuances, and it's more designed to think than just be, here's some answers. These are all kind of subjective, but I spent so many hundreds of hours thinking about this to place everything just right, telling you what the letters mean. I can briefly explain it. Every letter is a point of view like a lens. So you have like a lens of an X-ray vision, a lens of infrared vision, a lens of microscopic, another lens of